The price of airfares couldn't have been worse this Christmas, with many of our viewers writing in to tell us how much they spent. Julie paid $260 one way from Coffs Harbour to Sydney. It cost Alicia $550 to fly one way to Adelaide. Jessica paid $1,260 return for her family to fly from Rockhampton to Brisbane. And Abigail spent almost $1,000 for a Brisbane to Darwin return trip. For more on this, we're joined by Flight Centre CEO Graham Turner. Graham, it's a lot of money.
Yes, Sarah, it has been expensive, and that's the bad news. I think you'll find the good news is that these prices are coming off, and they'll get more competitive as time goes on. You know, we anticipate we're going to be back to about 94% capacity. Seat numbers on the major routes domestically within the next few months. So, yeah, that's the good news. Internationally, you've heard some horror stories there, particularly if you fly business class, but even economy to Europe and even worse to the States. You know, you can pay $3,000 to $4,000 at certain times, economy to the States, and generally about $2,500 to $3,000 economy to Europe, just depending on what the season is. But you fly business class, and that goes up to more like the $13,000 to the east coast of the States, and maybe just under $10,000 to most parts of Europe. But a lot more airlines are starting to come in, and you will see these fares come back. You know, there's always the fuel price that might make a bit of difference as well. But I'm pretty confident in everything we're seeing. These fares are becoming more competitive.
See, that's the concern though, Graham. I mean, we've been flying around the country and at least for the past year, every flight I've been on has been almost full. So you say that we're almost going to get back to 94%, but it feels like it's almost there now and the prices haven't dropped really at all. Is there a concern that actually the airlines might go, well, hey, this is working, people are still paying this amount, we'll just keep them there?
Yeah, look, as I said, domestic seats are back to 94, but one of the things to remember is international is only back to 70%, and that's not taking into account the Chinese carriers. So obviously this has pushed capacity, people holidaying a lot more domestically, and it just means that there's less spare seats. And, you know, if you're an airline CEO, without mentioning names, you're not going to encourage too much extra capacity come in when you know, they generally are doing quite well at the moment, whether that's Virgin or Qantas or Rex, in terms of the load factors that they have. And those load factors do keep the domestic prices up to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're doing pretty well, and hopefully the introduction of other airlines like Bonza will make things a bit more competitive. Graham, thanks for your time today.
Well, I'll tell you what, someone's a jumping ship during a year of sky-high interest rates and house prices. Experts predict investors are heading back to the property market.
So is now the right time to buy an investment property? Domain Managing Editor Alicestairs in Melbourne joins us now. Alice, good morning to you. How are interest rates likely to impact the property market this year? They were all over the place last year.
Good morning, guys. Look, we know that with interest rates rising, property prices have been declining, and investors have not been immune from the dark clouds that interest rate rises are bringing. And what we saw last year is that they've really been spooked by these rises and have fled the market. Lending is down over 23% year on year.
Why would investors re-enter the market right now, or wouldn't they let it go for a bit longer?
Well, Karl, you've got to have a certain amount of nerve, I suppose, if you are an investor. But what we've seen with these price declines is a lot of them are coming back into the market with the expectation that interest rates are probably going to stabilise sometime soon. We've seen really encouraging signs with the inflation figures coming out of the US last week, and the expectation is the RBA will not be increasing at the pace and kind of the pressure that they were increasing interest rates last year. So with that, we expect prices to stabilise somewhat. We also know that rents are up 17% year on year. So what we're seeing is that appetite from investors to kind of, when you've got such a tight rental market, to get in there and kind of find an opportunity, shall we say.
Well, that's the struggle there is for the renters. 17% year on year is enormous. I mean, if there's an influx of investors in the market, that's not going to help.
Sarah, it's really what actually, it's sort of a bizarre idea though, but when investors come back into the market, it actually gives the rental market more supply. So I know it might sound a bit counterintuitive to want investors back into the market, but it is going to provide more housing, which is what is needed. So basically, we have to do hope that investors come in and bring more supply to the rental market. But again, if you're looking at investing in the market, follow the yield. You need to find where the highest yield is. And interestingly, it is actually in more regional areas around the country. You can see Perth's got super high yield at the moment, but Sydney's had the highest pace growth on yield year on year.
Yeah, in some of those regional areas, as you point out. Alice, good to talk to you. Next up, are you paying sky-high prices for your airfares? How your travel could soon get a little cheaper. When should you book? Doing a lot of travel at the moment as the Treasurer. A fair bit on. Jim Chalmers joins us now from Canberra. Good morning, Treasurer. How are you?
Great, Karl. Happy New Year.
You too. Can you just remind everyone at home when people's energy prices might be going down?
Well, we're hoping to take some of the edge off those price increases. You know, we know that that's one of the things putting real pressure on people. So we've got a cap on gas prices. The states have got a cap on coal prices. And we're also going to give, through the course of this year, some electricity bill relief. I'm working with the state and territory colleagues on that at the moment to try and get that all sorted. So unfortunately, there will be increases in electricity prices, but what we're hoping to do is take some of the sting out of that, take some of the edge off of that, and that's why we've got those interventions in the market, plus a bit of cost of living relief for your viewers as well.
You seem a long way away from the election promise, though.
Oh, well, the commitment that we made about energy prices was that renewable energy is cleaner and cheaper energy. And we said in 2021 that it would be cheaper in 2025, and that, you know, in between then we've had a war in Ukraine, which is pushing up energy prices, as everybody knows, I think, and appreciates. So what we're doing instead, we've taken some pretty, I think, substantial decisions to cap some of these prices and to give some of that bill relief when people get the electricity bill in the mail. And we're hoping that that makes a difference. But it's a big part of our inflation problem in the economy. It's one of the reasons why I'm so pleased that we are seeing now the beginnings of some wages growth in our economy, which has been missing for too long.
How's that energy intervention going? Because from the outside, it looks like it could be a dud. Price restrictions restrict supply. Energy retailers have stopped taking new gas customers while others are increasing prices. Some businesses have been reporting to us they're being forced into more expensive plans. I don't see a whole lot of positives there.
Well, the gas price cap's only been in place for a few weeks now. It came in on the eve of Christmas. And inevitably, you know, people will want some more information as they get their head around what it means for them on both sides of the equation, whether they're selling gas or buying gas. And so there's an appetite for some more information and some more guidance about how it works, and the ACCC will provide that guidance before long. And so, but I think we do need a bit of perspective here. What we're proposing is a relatively substantial thing. We thought through all of the options and we think this is the best available. But inevitably, you know, not everybody wants to have their prices capped. And so there will be a bit of back and forth as we bet it down and people get their heads around it. That's just inevitable.
A bit of back and forth. I mean, some of these companies are giving you a bit more than back and forth at the moment. Anyway, we're talking about worker shortages throughout the last 6 months. We've been talking about that. But you're going to pay those seeking jobs more money. How's that not going to be inflationary? I'm
not sure what you're referring to, Karl.
In terms of paying people more money who are in terms of job seeker who are at home. You're also talking about the fact that some of these things can be inflationary. How is giving people more money not inflationary?
Well, we don't have a proposal on the table to increase job seeker. You know, there are suggestions being made to us all of the time about how we might do that. Well, we haven't come to a concluded view on that, but that's not something that we've put on the table. We've got processes to work through that. We don't have an inflation problem because people on pensions and payments are getting too much money, or we don't have an inflation problem because workers are earning too much. In fact, they've been earning, wages growth's been too small over the course of the last decade. We've got an inflation problem because the war in Ukraine is pushing up energy prices and COVID is putting pressure on supply chains and a few other issues as well around labour shortages. And so our job is to get wages moving again in a sustainable way. We're doing that. Our economic plan is working when it comes to the beginnings of wages growth. We're providing cost of living relief, whether it's energy bill relief, cheaper early childhood education, cheaper medicines, or in other ways. You can do that in a responsible way without adding to inflation. And that's a central part of the budget that I handed down in October, and it'll be a key part of what I do in May when I hand down our second budget as well.
So that's a no on job seeker increasing. Is that right? Because it was a little different before the last election as well, wasn't it?
Oh, look, always, when you're a Labor government and you know that people are doing it tough, you do what you responsibly can, but you've got to weigh it up with the fact we've got $1 trillion of debt in the budget and we've got to make it all add up. And so those are all relevant considerations. On an almost daily basis, people that we respect and like and listen to put proposals to us to increase job seeker. And when we can responsibly do that, sensibly do that, affordably do that, obviously we consider it. But we've got other cost of living relief in the budget already. There'll be more in the budget in May. We've got to weigh up all of these different options and different priorities.
There's a bit on.
There's a bit on. I was listening to you talk to Eddie Jones a moment ago, Karl.
I thought you said Dirty
about
Jones.
The year ahead. Eddie Jones.
I'm glad it wasn't dirty. Yeah, go on about Eddie.
Jones. I was thinking Eddie's got a lot on his plate, but I think we've all got a lot on our plate in 2023. You got a new co-host.
Yeah.
There's a new coach of the Wallabies, and there's a bit on for the government as well.
All right, it's a good trifecta to have. Everyone's going to be okay, I reckon. Good on you, Treasurer. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Karl.